Welcome to Feed Your Business with Love, where we are talking about the true ticket to that success and dream life that you are imagining. The secret sauce? It's self-love, because success starts from within. So are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's like so much a pleasure. I love it.
I am really excited to have this conversation because I love your story. And for our listeners that don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about your life since leaving corporate?
Yes, which is funny because I've left corporate twice now. Yeah. So back in 2017, the summer of 2017 was the first time I was working doing like sales and account management for the last almost 8 years. Like my 8-year anniversary of being at a company was coming up. And I was just I was in a place where I was not only working my corporate job, I was that burnt out chronic hustler. Always had multiple jobs. I've always had multiple jobs since I was probably in college. Like I've always been doing something. So I got my health coaching certification back in 2013. And so I started health coaching, and that was very interesting. I mean, 2013 to 2018. So for 4.5, 5 years with the coaching, it was more or less me throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping it would stick. Granted, I had clients, but also I was burning myself at both ends because I was working the 9 to 5. I also taught spin classes for a few of those years too. And my classes were at 5:45 in the morning. So I was up at 5 a.m., whether to teach classes or to go work out myself, because I was not an evening. I was like, after work, I want to just go home. Plus I had more work to do when I got home. So there was no time. So that was my day to day, was like getting up, doing the workouts, going to work, coming home, having a client or two, scarfing down my dinner, maybe even sometimes eating dinner on the phone call with my clients, to maybe then putting playlists together and routines together for my spin classes. I also had taken on like a personal trainer position as well. Yeah, like chronic hustler. So with the personal training, it was like an all audio app. So with that, as well as the health coaching, there were people coming to me over the course of the last couple of years at my corporate and just saying, you're changing my life. I feel so much more empowered. I'm loving my body again. I have so much more confidence and all this. And I'm like, wow, I've been in corporate America for almost 10 years now, including another corporate job I had before. And I was like, I've never heard anybody tell me that. So I knew, and there were other things going on as well, but I knew at that time, I was like, something has to change. Like, I'm totally unfulfilled. I'm going to work for a paycheck and to talk to my friends. Like, that's it. This isn't working. So yeah, 2017, the summer of 2017, I went ahead and resigned from corporate. And I was like, I will be okay figuring this health coaching thing out and doing the personal training app. And I was making enough to pay my bills. Plus I had savings. So I was like, I'm good. I'm good on my savings. Granted, I went through my savings quite quickly, but, but I started like that whole end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I began just working on myself. I 360 my whole life. I mean, I was a girl who also, in addition to all the chronic hustling, I was very disconnected from myself, obviously, with all the hustling that was going on. And on the weekends, I would find myself not taking care of things that I needed to get done, like cleaning and grocery shopping and whatever. It was like binge drinking and going out with my friends. I mean, this was like late 20s. So it was just it was a lot. I was never being present with myself. I was never connecting within. It was always people pleasing and doing things for others and totally avoiding myself. So I was like, all of my friends, they're either in two different categories, more or less. Like, I have my friends that are in relationships and getting married and having kids, and I'm totally single. And then I have the other friends that are single and going out and drinking all the time, and which there's nothing against either of those. That's just not where I wanted. I wasn't there, and I didn't want to be drinking anymore, like that, at least. So like I said, I just made some radical changes in my life. I started reading personal development books and listening to podcasts and things like that. And I would say one of the podcasts that I was listening to that started to change a lot of my dynamic was Angie Lee. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but yeah. So Angie Lee, it was her podcast, and then she had a Facebook group. So I joined the Facebook group and I started like reading other women's stories. And I was like, wow, these are all like health coaches and life coaches, people that are on the same playing level as I am. So I started connecting with people there. I actually joined Angie Lee's last like mastermind program back in 2018. And I was like, wow, I learned how to like actually like hone in on a niche. So it didn't feel like I was throwing spaghetti against the wall anymore. And my clients weren't, you really do have to have soul aligned clients, because otherwise your energy just gets very drained. And I'm like, okay, I left corporate to avoid burnout, and I'm still in burnout because I'm working with people that I'm not aligned with. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I went through her program. It was like a 4-month program, learned how to create digital courses and really just get in alignment with my niche. And then we filmed Love is Blind. A month after we filmed Love is Blind. So I took 7 weeks off from doing any coaching and any working because we were filming the show. And when we got done with the show, I was just beside myself for many different reasons. I mean, the intensity of the show, the dynamics, the emotions that were charged during that experience, it just left me feeling very like chaotic, and I didn't know what to do, really. How do I needed to get myself back on track? So I invested in a business and mindset coach, and like a one-on-one. That was my first private coach that I had before, and she did so much like the therapy I probably knew I needed 15 years prior to. That's what we went through. I mean, the shadow work, the inner child healing, bringing awareness to little girl stories and wounds and traumas and things like that. And like how all of that was affecting my life. And, oh, this is why you're burnt out, because you're avoiding feeling all those things that, yes, therapy probably could have been helpful 15 years ago when I went through the things. It was, everything happens for a reason, of course, but it changed my life. And with that, when I was doing the health coaching, those first handful of years, again, I wasn't like, everything wasn't right with it.
Yeah.
While also it was more of the nutrition and the physical, like exercise components that I was honing in on when I was coaching people. So when I had this experience with the business and mindset coach, I was like, oh, I get it. Like the subconscious reprogramming and just like the mindset, everything about the mind and how it really affects. And so it started to make sense about, okay, the primary foods that we are taught at IIN, and it's like your relationships, your spirituality, your finances, your exercise is a part of that, but you know, your business and career too. And I was like, oh, I get it. Like it really, your mind, you have to start healing while also reprogramming your subconscious mind in order for all of these areas to improve. And so anyways, I started to work back in that, but I did it very abruptly, meaning all of a sudden I started talking about subconscious reprogramming and mindset and all these things. And my audience was like, hold up. Well, this is my perception, obviously. I feel like I was like losing people because they were like, she's not posting recipes in her food anymore, and like nutrition tips and fitness workouts and that kind of thing. And because I was like, that's an old story of mine. Like it was like, I just pulled the plug. Like I am a mindset coach. Like I just decided to make the transition after that experience. So to say where I went into corporate again was because I had gone through like all of my savings to invest in my business coaches. And I was never like, it really was smart investments. I just I wasn't making the money to be replacing the money that I was giving out. So investing, but regardless. And so I got myself in $30,000 worth of debt. And I just it was like I was trying to like make my business happen and it wasn't working. And I was like, holy shit. So, I mean, my parents helped me a little bit, but outside, I mean, I had to pay them back. But outside of that, my mom was like, you're going to have to move home or something if you don't like get your shit together, basically. So I went back into corporate. I literally interviewed for 2 companies. The first one turned me down, and I like nailed the interview. Like it was so good, but there was like 3 decision makers, and it was 2 of them were like, yeah, we want her. And the one was like, he just had more say in the decision. And he was like, no, she doesn't have this skill. And I'm like, didn't I just wow you on every other level though? So I was like pretty bummed about that. But again, everything works out. So the second company, I mean, it was paying me like less than $40,000 a year, which whatever, but that was enough to cover my bills. And I was like, that's all I need.
Yeah.
So I just needed to get this like money monkey off of my back, this financial pressure. So that happened. This was all like 2019. And then 2020, February of 2020, right before the pandemic, Love is Blind aired. Now I go back into burnout. So I'm working a corporate job, and I worked the corporate job from like that whole time, 2019, all of 2020. And then in March of 2021, I left corporate again. Reason being, I had a anxiety attack or panic attack. I don't know. I've never had either. So, but I knew something was very wrong with me Valentine's weekend 2021. So I like woke up at 6 a.m. both that Saturday and Sunday, heart racing, mind racing. It was just like something has to let go. Because like when the show came out, again, I was working corporate, but I had to be there at 7 or 8 a.m. So just like waking up, I just like never felt like I had time for me. And I mean, granted, like I know a lot of loss came from the pandemic, but I am grateful that the pandemic allowed us to work from home, because I think that probably allowed me to go as long as I did. So I was at least able to just like roll out of bed and do work versus having to get ready and drive to an office and stuff.
Yeah.
But I had like multiple podcast interviews every single week after the show, as the show was airing, and for months after the show was airing. Now I have this whole role as now you're an influencer. So brands are sending me product and I have to create content. And I'm like, when the hell am I going to do content? Okay, now I have to do it when I come home from work, while also I'm still trying to do my business, and I was getting clients. So now I have clients. It's like I had 4 full-time jobs, and I am like so depleted of energy. It was terrible. But anyway, so yeah, so March of 2021, I went back to work. I took a week off after the panic attack, and I went to work for maybe 3 weeks. And then I called my boss one day, and I was crying. Like I was so emotionally just drained. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I have to pursue my passion. This is not my passion. I'm not even making enough money. Like it's just whatever. I took the job to make money, and I served its purpose, and I'm done. I have to choose me right now. And that's what I did. And I will say I struggled a lot, like over the last year and a half, finding my groove between the like public figure, influencer, coach, entrepreneur, all the things. And of course I added podcasting in there too. So it's been a very interesting like transition. But again, I've done so much like healing work, and I've done so much mindset work that I had this happen to me like 2 years ago. I mean, I would just be in a very different place. And like now I have that belief, that active faith that everything's working out as it's supposed to. So when finances aren't coming in as I would like them to, I know why, because I maybe not have been taking as much action prior to, or maybe it's just a lull and I have to surrender. There's been a lot of surrendering in my life over the last year. So, but yeah, I even was tested like 6 months ago. Like I had a friend that's really big into like law of attraction work too. And I was talking to her, and I was like, yeah, I just feel like maybe I might have to do the corporate thing again. I might just have to do it as I like figure things out. And she was like, it's a test. Don't do it. She's like, do not do it. She's like, you know that is not going to serve you again. You're going to repeat the same cycle. And I was like, no, I know. I just needed to hear someone else tell me that. I said, because I've been telling myself that too. But it's just funny, like how when you like put your mind to something, it's okay, you're right. Like you just start taking actions that are in alignment with where you want to go. And that's the thing. Like if your business isn't working, it's because you're not working the business, period. Like, and you're in your head, your ego is taking over. I mean, earlier this year, I read the book, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, and that changed. I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been going through. My ego and spiritual self have been having a war. No wonder I felt like all over the place for the last year. But so that was very helpful. And my actions have been so much more in alignment. I mean, I found myself like, I did this women's retreat this past week, and we were writing out just dreams and like visions. And I wrote out something like, as in future tense of like me singing on stages. I'm like, I'm not a singer. I like to karaoke. But that was something that came to me. I'm like, that would be cool. I feel like I'm that person that I'm like, let's just do everything. Let's try everything. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. like whatever. I just think it would be cool to see my name have like one single song out there on Spotify. That's cool. I did it. I don't know.
That's
Just,
amazing.
I'm just leaning into I've just become I was always an optimist, but I have found this like just this newer, I don't know. I mean, like I said, once you start doing this like self-love work and like really understanding how the subconscious and conscious work, you look at life a lot differently. And gratitude leads my life. I practice gratitude every single day. Like even when I'm in the trenches, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity because I know it's teaching me something that I need to continue to exist.
Yeah. I think that there's so many things that you've hit on here. And I think it all comes down to, and I think it's something that you've said too, is that self love, the self worth, the self esteem is the ticket to whatever success looks like for
Mhm.
your life. And
Wow.
you've really leaned in and asked yourself, like, is this serving me? No. Do I care that I lost followers when I dropped from health coaching to this mindset coaching? Because you realized as you leveled up the people that you wanted to actually come with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's like true too, to like my following on social media now. Like everyone, like people will connect with me online. They're like, you have 400 something thousand followers. I'm like, yeah, but they're not 400 something thousand people that engage with me on a regular basis. I was like, no, there was never that engagement. Like that is my followers, and I'm very grateful for it. But because I was so, I want to say I was very like business heavy when the show came out. I obviously was speaking to my niche.
Yeah.
And my niche aren't the millions of people who watched the show. So it's like the engagement dropped very quickly, which screwed up my head also. I mean, I will say that like it does. But that was like a big like pain point, but something I've had to work around to be like, but Kelly, the people that are showing up for you every day are your true people. They are. And my engagement will be so weird. Like sometimes I have like 500 likes on a post where a castmate of mine who has a similar following has 30,000 likes on her post. And I'm like, it screws with my head, but I'm also like, you know what though? I did this. I curated this community and it's okay. Like I'm deep. I talk about things that not necessarily everyone understands or is in alignment with. And so if they drop off, they may not like the algorithm just doesn't show my stuff to certain people. So it's 400,000 people, and that's okay. Like I've just had to be okay with it and learn that it's okay because my people who are supporting me and who love the content that I put out there are those ones that are engaging in my
Yeah.
stuff. So it's awesome in that regard.
I love that. So what has your business in November of 2022, where we're at right now, what has it unfolded into? Because we've kind of heard your journey. I would love to know what's going on right now. What's the juicy gossip? I want to know.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Podcast. I have my podcast. I have weekly episodes. It's Chase Life with Kelly podcast. I have that, and I'm actually working on like a sponsorship deck for that right now because I'm
Ooh.
like, okay, I've been doing this forever. Like, but yeah. So podcast is like a pretty main focus. I actually just started about 2 weeks ago, actively showing up on a pretty regular, like daily basis or every other day basis on TikTok, which was something that I did not because I was like, when the show aired, I'm like, that's just another place I got to show up. I'm already showing up everywhere else. Like, I'm one person. I can't do it. But anyway, so I actually started doing some behind the scenes from Love is Blind, which I got a little smack on the hand for. So I had to delete those videos, but it did grow my following on TikTok in over a week and a half. So I was like, hey, you know what? It served its purpose. I gained a following. We're all good. So now my objective is to go in and share more, not behind the scenes, but I want to say the thoughts and the feelings and my truth and like my perspective and my experience on the show, like what was going on. And I kind of want to do like little like green screens and like show them a clip from the show and be like, hey, like I was actually going through this here, or you can tell I had a weight transformation after the show aired too. I mean, when we filmed the show, and now I'm 15 to 20 pounds lighter than I was when we filmed Love is Blind. So speaking to that and what has really helped me to love my body again and love myself and be more confident in who I am. So things like that, while also I want to tell them more about my story. So that's where I'm going to now take my audience. Instagram, I have decided to just like hold back. I used to talk to my phone screen like all the time. I was that person who had a million little dots across her story. Like when you go to my thing, you're like, oh my God, what is she talking about today? I have things to say, but that's why I have a podcast, I think. And that's why I love I want to start doing even more like speaking engagements and getting out and doing more events, connecting. So I have been doing more like influencer type of like events here locally in Atlanta, but I want to do more. Like I said, I'm just like well, I wrote this on my journal the first day of filming Love is Blind. Every opportunity creates another opportunity. And that's true. So if I get myself out there and just keep moving, whatever is meant to be is going to keep coming towards me and keeping that positive energy. So yeah, I mean, just to simply answer your question though, the podcast, creating more story, sharing more of my story on TikTok, and probably repurposing that maybe over to Instagram Reels, but just trying to get myself to a place of, yeah, sharing myself more, but not in a like on my story all the time.
Yes.
The content is going to be more sharing my story. And I've been doing coaching collectively for almost 10 years now. I mean, with health coaching and mindset coaching, and I dabble with like relationship coaching too, especially after the show aired, because I was like, oh, that just makes sense. Like I came from a love show. I should do relationship coaching. And I did. And it was more self-love, of course, but I'm just transitioning the way that I'm doing my coaching. Like I want to probably get a membership together. So it's just like low cost, more people can join and do it more that way. And I have 3 digital courses as well that I've created over the last few years that I'm just going to have those available for people too. I don't know if I want to necessarily do so much of the like coaching. I want to have resources available for people and have myself out and about, like I said, doing events, public speaking, things like that. So I'm kind of like in a little transition period right at the moment.
And
But
that's what's beautiful, right? Is that
yeah,
transition period, because you get to really take that moment in the transition and be like, what is it that gets to come forward and what is
right,
it that stays behind? And I
yeah,
love that you're actually utilizing something that people saw. So they saw the show, it
mhm,
became a big thing. Because I remember when it came out, and you're actually sharing the behind the scenes, because it's just like everything we see, right? On social media or media, we see this version, but we
right,
don't see is that inner piece that's going on. And I think that that's going to make huge, I call them tsunamis in the
yeah.
self-love space.
I do too. I do too. And yeah, like I love that you said behind the scenes because it is. It's like I'm pivoting from the behind the scenes technicalities of what the show does not want me to air and that they don't want me to make public knowledge, but doing the behind the scenes of my own self. And I think that that's going to be so much more connecting anyways. I mean, that's what people really want to know. Like I mean, sharing your story is what connects you no matter what. Like
Yeah.
whether you have a business or not, like you're sharing. I mean, that's what I just went on this women's retreat and it's what we did the entire time was share our story and be vulnerable. And that's what created the connection and everyone looking around at each other and be like, me too, you're not alone. And it's just it's so powerful. So I really feel like maybe I'm not seeing the financial return at the moment, but I'm going to because I'm going to be creating so much impact. And that's the beauty of it. And I just want to keep creating impact. And like I said, like I feel like my superpower, I think that's why I don't want to necessarily do like the coaching stuff in particular so much anymore. I'm not like totally going away from it. I'm just very selective of who I'm going to be working with, of course.
Yeah.
Do more like private, perhaps kind of things. But where was I going with that? Oh, that I just feel like one of my superpowers is just being in person with people. I don't want to be in my house all the time. And with my podcast, I gotta be in my house. Like in coaching calls, kind of gotta be in your house too. So I just want to be out and about more. Like I love people. I
Yeah.
love connecting, making someone feel good.
Yeah. And the energy on stage, I mean, is just, I haven't been on a big stage. I've been on a very tiny stage. Thank
Yeah.
you, universe. May I have another? But
Right.
it's so different when you have 20 people in a room than when you have 20 people online.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that it's so cool that you're bringing this forward, because I keep feeling and I keep seeing is just you're breaking the norms. Like I don't see anyone else coming out and being like, here's what you saw. Yes, it was big. I have a huge following. I'm stepping back from the huge following because it's not serving me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's absolutely it. I mean, because like I said, I felt like so chaotic after the show aired. It's like I knew that I was doing things before reading A New Earth. I knew I was doing certain things for the boosted engagement. I was not really aligned with myself, and I was doing things for the likes and doing things for just the engagement. Like I said, for the algorithm to be like, oh, she's talking about Love is Blind, or I don't know, but I was doing it in a different way, or I would like, I used to be, and I still can. It just depends on what mood I'm in now. But I was like the mini blogger. Like my Instagram captions were like, I'd have to delete because the caption was too long when I was typing it out. Yeah. It would always tell me your captions at maximum. I got lots to say. They were always so like deep, and it felt so good. And then when the show aired, and it was like I would create these long captions and my engagement would like flop. And I'm like, I got things to say. Are people not reading this? And it's just because I believe, and again, this could be just my perception, but it's like people see, the masses see someone on a reality show. Now they're a public figure. Like I could post a picture with no caption and probably get like 1 million likes. It's like all of a sudden, it's like I had to, I don't know, it's like I had to change who I was, or that's how I felt. And it's, oh, I'm an influencer all of a sudden. And now I have to just post like fashion pics and me holding purses and things. And I'm like, I don't even use purses. I mean, it was just like, I felt like I had to change who I was. And although I didn't, but there were times, I mean, for the most part, I did not. But I know that it was more of an inner struggle for me. It was like I was conflicted. Oh, should I post this? Should I not? Versus just following my heart and posting the things. And then the times you post the things where you're following your heart, and again, it didn't get the engagement that I was expecting because I'm like, God, that was so powerful. I just want so many more people to see it. But now I'm like, you know what though? It's like social media is pushing video content. So it's like, okay, well, how can I translate what that deep message into video content, or how can I produce it on my podcast and share my story there? And so there's other avenues. If it doesn't work somewhere, it will work somewhere else. So I think that's the beautiful thing about the entrepreneurial journey. It's like you're never failing. You're always just learning and pivoting. That's all it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. And yes. And I love that you haven't given up, because there's so many people that could make such a big impact, but it does get frustrating because maybe we've hired a business coach that says you have to do it X, Y, Z. And I think that the business coaching world can be a little like the dieting world, because it's, here's your one size fits all approach. And it's like, you do 110%, you don't see the result. Now you feel like a failure. But I love that you have taken all of those, instead of as failures, like that step forward. This is the piece I want. This is what I'm moving forward. And I couldn't even imagine from being on TV in a very popular series to having to make that change. Like, how do I not lose myself in this?
Yeah. And like I said, I think I was to a degree. I just didn't feel like totally myself. I'm like, I can't write my mini blogs anymore. No, but I don't know. It was just like, it really was. It took a toll on me. And I think that the inner challenges that I was facing, along with just everything that I was doing, that's why I had those like anxiety attacks or panic attacks. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is, but it was something, and it was major, and I didn't like it. And I would never want anyone to experience that again. And now I like understand. It was right after I had those attacks, I was introduced. Well, I had been introduced to this girl. Her name is Madison Rose. I had been introduced to her, and I've been like looking at her stuff, and she was a consultant of Bob Proctor. And I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Proctor, but he made the book Thinking into Results into that program, basically. And that changed my life. I mean, I invested in Madison. Like I was like, yeah, like whatever this is. But I went online in between investing in her and in between leaving my job and that panic attack. I Googled like this Bob Proctor, because she was talking about something called the terror barrier. And I was like, what is that? So I would like Google it. And it's like this whole thing, like it's free information is out there, people. It's free information. So I'm like reading this thing, and the terror barrier was just, I was like, that's what keeps happening. Like I keep being like, leave corporate or do this or do this. But then it's like my ego and like fears all come in, and it's no, but. And so it bounces you off the terror barrier, the wall, and back over. And that's why we stay in this conflict and we have such mental chaos, is because we're not breaking through that terror barrier. But as soon as you make a decision, you're breaking through that terror barrier, and you have to be just okay with that decision. So had I chosen, no, I'm going to stay at corporate, I would have had to be okay with it in order to not create that anxiety again. But I couldn't, because I knew that there was more for me out there. So I just kept paying it. And as soon as I read that, I think it was like the next day or 2 days later, that's when I like called my boss and was like, I gotta go. This isn't serving me. So our health is more important. Our worth is more important. Our self-love, like ourselves are more important than anything. Like you have to start incorporating boundaries. You have to implement these things, and so that you can be more successful, and quote unquote successful is because success looks different for everybody. I mean, me making just able to pay my bills and having an extra grand a month or something, I'm like, that's great. I'm good. I don't even need the whole bells and whistles. I don't need $1 million. Although I keep telling my mom, I was like, I will be the first millionaire in this family. I tell my mom that every time. She's like, okay, Kelly, whatever. You just keep leaning in towards things that really make you feel good. That is the biggest thing. The feel good, the vibration. If it doesn't feel good, you're in a low vibration. You're just going to keep attracting that low vibrational things.
Yeah.
Or you'll miss it if it comes in, because you're like,
so if somebody was stuck in that muck or in that bouncing back and forth place, what is the first thing that you think they should do? Just what would you tell someone, your best friend, maybe?
Yeah, I want to say I just had this experience this weekend too, because there was a girl who was like, I just feel really stuck. Like I'm only making a certain amount of money. I can't take on more clients because I'm already burnt out. She had 2 kids and all this stuff. And I was like, well, we have a few options. You either, instead of doing single privates, you condense, maybe you do 2 privates at a time. You might have to go get a job like instead and put your other stuff on hold for right now, or do it on a weekend or something. Like you have to do something. You have 2 kids to also worry about now. This isn't just a you thing. Like you have to change, because if you don't change, you're going in 6 months from now be in the same predicament. So it's a little bit of that like tough love, but okay, well, what can we do? Stop talking about what we can't do and let's talk about what we can do. So add more clients, but in one session, have a membership program, do stuff virtually online. Like there's so many things that we can be doing. Up your rates so that you're not in a bad place. And that was like the biggest thing. I'm like, up your rates. And that's like the biggest fear. And I'm sure your listeners can resonate with this, because I've even had this too, but it's if I increase my rates, I'll lose my clients and then no one will work with me. And I'm like, yeah, but there are people out there paying $25,000 for a 3-month coaching thing. I'm pretty sure you will attract, once you get your money mindset, you will attract the right type of clientele that will be able to afford those things. And then maybe you create some virtual, like I've already done, like a done for you class online, and then people can just passively pay for the things and go through it at their own time. Then you're not succumbing to other people's schedules and all that either. There's so many things that we can do. But we get stuck because we're in chaos. We're freaking out. We're feeling the anxiety. We're feeling the stress, and we're like, oh my God. And so it limits us, those emotions. One of my favorite mentors, Melanie Lair, said this one time. She was like, when your emotions are high, your intelligence is low. And I was like, that is the most beautiful thing. It's so powerful. I'm like, you're so right. I mean, in any situation, that's like when you're in a heated debacle with your partner or something, your emotions are high, things are flying out of your mouth. You're like, I don't even remember saying that. And it's because you don't, because your emotions are so heightened. And so that's why we say things we don't mean, because our emotions are present. So if we learn to use better communication skills, everything starts to change in so many different ways. That's the ripple, but it starts with your mind first. You have to get really good with your mindset. So mindset is everything.
Mindset, self-love, self-worth, because everything on the inside is your outside world, I feel, is your reflection of your inside world.
Yep, it is. It is. And then I'll be like, here's a lot of books, here's a lot of podcasts. But I know, I mean, I don't understand, because I am not a mom and I can't understand in that regard. But I had a mom who took care of 2 children, and she put up strong boundaries. She had her self-love time, self-care time. Girls go play, mommy's got to work out. Girls go watch a movie, mom's got to work out. You have to be selfish. Being selfish is the best thing that you will do for yourself ever and ever. And it's not coming from a place like people are like, oh, I can't do that. No, you can. You're choosing not to. And that's why you're complaining about the results that you have. You can. So put the boundaries in place that are going to serve you, because that's love. That is self-love, and that is self-care. And I promise the burnout will lessen, the stress will lessen. Boundaries are beautiful.
Yes. Yes, they are. So where can people, I know you said TikTok, you have a podcast. Can you share again with us where we can find you?
Yes, yes. So podcast is Chase Life with Kelly. That's like any place you can listen to podcast. Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. And then on TikTok, it's I am Kelly Chase. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't cross-pollinate the brand name, but I think I started that name when I was like in my head about the influencer stuff. And I was like, I'm going to just be my name so people can like more easily find me. But same
There's
thing.
a reason for it. Everything, every action, I believe there's a reason. So I love that. If someone were to keep one thing from this interview with them forever, what would you want them to keep?
That with every, I want to say like with every decision that you make, you have to remember that it is like the best decision for you is the best decision for everyone. And although it may not feel like it sometimes, that is like choosing you. Like you have to choose you. And like some people are like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Now you're doubting yourself. Now you're losing self-trust. And it's okay. Like we don't know what we don't know either. So when you make a decision, it's based on the beliefs and the subconscious programming that you already have going on and your worth that you have for yourself at that time. As you grow, as you do healing work, as you tap into more self-care practices and self-love practices and really start to study the mind, you will start making better, more aligned decisions. And then it will feel better over time. But just give yourself that grace. Like the best decision for me right now is the best decision for everyone. And you can always change things, but give yourself grace. Like we're all trying every day to improve and better our lives, better the lives of our family and all that. So I don't know. There's that. And it's like every opportunity creates another opportunity. Just lean into it and don't ever think that your setbacks or failures. Keep going. Keep going. That is probably, yeah, those are probably my biggest things. Set the boundaries. I'm like, everything that I just said, that's what you all need to take away from it. So, but yeah, it's so important that we just really tune into ourselves and honor ourselves and know that, you know, what we can have and who we can become, it really is up to us. Yeah.